Hello everyone, I'm Nada Hussein and together with my colleagues Rawan Al-Abyad and Salma Abdul Halim, we will be presenting a research project entitled Combating COVID-19 Through Aspect-Based Sentiment Analysis of Vaccine Misinformation on Twitter. This project is supervised by Dr. Hiba Ismail and Professor Murad Al-Hadi.
It's been 2 years since the World Health Organization has declared the spread of coronavirus COVID 19 as a global pandemic on March 2020. The pandemic has created both a public health crisis and an economic crisis in the worldwide. It has also disturbed lives, pushed the hospital system to its capacity, and created a global economic slowdown. Airlines have cancelled flights and shops have closed. But the virus is also impacting the well being of humans in a way you might not expect. And here it comes the help of COVID 19 vaccines that provide a glimmer of hope and a pathway to recovery. Vaccines, in fact, save millions of lives each year, and the development of safe and effective COVID 19 vaccines are a crucial step in helping us get back to doing more of things we enjoy with the people we love the most. And the global effort conducted by the World Health Organization to develop and distribute an effective vaccine produced several safe and effective options. However, that's not always the case.
I will absolutely refuse to take a coronavirus vaccine.
We don't know what the long-term side effects are.
It also hasn't been proven to be effective.
The pharmaceutical companies are given a free ride on injecting toxins in your children without a single safety study.
Not going to just jump on a bandwagon with something that has not been tested.
When you say that,
With a number of potential vaccines for COVID 19 now imminent, there are increasing concerns that misinformation online could turn some people against being immunized. Now, the World Health Organization say that the world is not only fighting the pandemic, but also what it calls an infodemic, where an overload of information, some of it false, makes it very difficult for people to make a decision about their own health. The widespread of misinformation about COVID 19 vaccines has included several false claims about their safety, effectiveness, ingredients, side effects, and purposes. So, the main source of vaccine misinformation is social media. According to the PEW research, about 53% of people say they get news from social media. This is due to the fact that misinformation may be amplified by social media algorithms that prioritize content likely to receive a high amount of engagement. On the other hand, Facebook, Google, and Twitter have put policies into place to prevent the spread of vaccine misinformation, yet to date, all have failed to satisfactorily enforce those policies.
Several research projects try to examine and analyze public opinion and attitudes concerning the available
the
COVID
majority
vaccination.
of the reviewed literature was limited in geographic coverage. Specific to some countries, the time frame in several work was lacking, covering less than 6 months. Moreover, some research work was limited to certain vaccine types. The majority of the research implemented sentiment analysis. Finally, despite the massive spread of misinformation, only very few research works tackled vaccine misinformation. To this end, to address this limitation, we use a publicly available dataset covering a time frame from December 2020 to July 2021 and deploys aspect-based sentiment analysis to tackle vaccine misinformation for all vaccine
sentiment
types
analysis
worldwide.
only provides an abstract and broad understanding for the problem and public concerns, which might be enough for attacking some issues. However, this is not the case. Provides a comprehensive and solid understanding of the sources of concerns, hesitation drivers, and the aspect of the vaccine misinformation among the public. Moreover, it provides a solid understanding of the spatio-temporal progression of the common misinformation aspect related to the different available vaccines. This work aims to support stakeholders
around the globe to combat COVID-19 vaccine misinformation through different representative and comprehensive
of our
analytic
proposed
results.
vaccine misinformation aspect-based sentiment analysis framework. As shown, the pipeline starts with data collection and annotation, followed by cleaning and pre-processing, and finally the prediction and the analytics, including the training, validation, and evaluation of the machine learning models used. We utilize the anti-vax English dataset, include COVID tweets from December 31, 2020 to July 8, 2021. This timeline is sufficient to provide insight into the progression and evaluation of misinformation aspects. We annotate 4K for misinformation aspects. Aspects of misinformation were categorized, labeled, and verified relevant to verified medical sources. The annotated dataset was passed through the pre-processing and cleaning pipeline to train the models. The aspect-based sentiment analysis machine learning models were trained, optimized, and fine-tuned, and then predictions as well as
We
spatiotemporal
assigned some rules
analytics
for
were
each aspect,
produced.
and it was used for both annotation stages. These rules were obtained from reliable medical resources, including Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The guidelines were developed based on toolkit from UNICEF, similar annotation guides as well as policies and guides used by Twitter. The figure demonstrates the misinformation aspects distribution. It can be seen that agenda as well as efficacy and clinical trials were the dominant aspects representing public concern about the vaccine, making up for almost 80% of the dataset.
Two models were trained throughout the experimentation phase: a logistic regression prediction model to detect if the tweet contains misinformation, and a BERT model that classifies and categorizes the aspects of misinformation. Following are the results we obtained. Multiple experimental trials were conducted to achieve the highest possible performance. After the initial submission, we continued fine-tuning the models. Out of those trained models, the logistic regression misinformation prediction model achieved a test accuracy of 96%, while the BERT model achieved a train accuracy of 97% and a test accuracy of 91%. The top figure illustrates the number of misinformation tweets associated with each type of vaccine. It can be seen that Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca had the majority of the public misinformation. Furthermore, the bottom figure illustrates the number of misinformation tweets factored by aspect for each vaccine type. Again, it can be seen that Pfizer generated most of the vaccine misinformation scores relevant to all aspects. To understand the spatiotemporal progression of the vaccine misinformation, the tweet's location and timestamp metadata were used to develop spatial and temporal analytics. To illustrate the spread of the most dominant vaccine misinformation aspects in each geographical region, this figure shows the spatial analysis obtained from the data. As illustrated, the vaccine efficacy in clinical trials was the most dominant aspect in European countries as well as Middle Eastern and African countries. With 33 total registered trials in Russia, 18 in South Africa, and less than 10 trials in the rest of Africa, Twitter users expressed their growing concern of the insufficient testing of the experimental jabs. Meanwhile, Twitter users were more concerned about the vaccine being part of an agenda, whether it's depopulation or market profit, in the United States and Canada. This figure shows the temporal progression of misinformation aspects over the dataset timeline starting from the approval of the first vaccine in December 2020 until July 2021. As can be seen, the efficacy in clinical trials was the dominant aspect during the first 3 months starting from the first official approval of the vaccine. In early February and March, multiple efficacy-related reports were published. Simultaneously, multiple variants started to spread, raising the concern of the efficacy of the vaccines. Furthermore, the agenda aspect starts to peak in April. This can be explained by the latest events starting from late April when fake Pfizer vaccines were reported in Mexico and Poland, as well as the distribution of vaccines, especially AstraZeneca, outside the US. May witnessed the preparation of authorization and approval of Pfizer vaccine in adolescents. Moreover, multiple vaccines including doses of Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Moderna, and AstraZeneca that was not approved yet in the USA were shipped out of the USA. We proposed a novel aspect-based sentiment analysis framework that detects and classifies COVID-19 vaccine misinformation into medically verified aspects. The vaccine misinformation detection model achieved an accuracy of 96%, while the aspect prediction model achieved 91% accuracy. This proves that the framework is reliable, and with additional data and fine-tuning,